Today we're going to do a cooking segment. We're really known for our cooking out at Burning Man. And if you can't cook in the kitchen, you can't cook in the bush. So today we're going to learn how to make mac and cheese. First, we're going to throw that away. And we're going to learn to make real mac and cheese using my Grandma Harriet's recipe. So let's get cooking. Okay, so this is my grandmother's recipe for homemade mac and cheese. The first thing we're gonna do is get the bacon crisped, and we're gonna actually just do that in the oven because I think the oven makes the best bacon. So while we're prepping the other ingredients, the bacon is gonna be in the oven cooking. And I just have that set at 350. Okay, I've already got the noodles pre-cooked. I did that this morning, and I just put them in a piece of Tupperware, shoved them in the fridge. I did it before I went to work today. The package sits 7 minutes, but I live at really high altitude, so it actually ended up taking like 10. There's no reason you have to pre-cook them. I just did that to save time. You don't rinse them. You want to leave the starchy noodle water on them. You just drain them. I'm not really sure how long an entire pan of bacon takes to cook, so I'm just going to start out with a 10-minute timer. It's already preheated to 350, so we're just going to start at 10 minutes. Take it from there. Okay, so we're gonna cut medium onion and like 3 big cloves of garlic, and we're gonna dice them very fine. Okay, so I cut these really fine. That's a really good trick if you have fussy eaters. These are spice vegetables. People don't need to necessarily know it's in there. It's for flavor. So you can actually hide spices from fussy eaters by just chopping them very fine. Also, I think it releases the flavor more. So I did check the bacon at 10 minutes. It was just hot and raw. So we did another 10. If you don't know how long to cook something, it's always best to err on the side of not enough, because you can always cook more, but you can't cook less. We're gonna get kind of Paula Deen with it up in here. And we're gonna start with like a cube of butter. Okay, this is comfort food. This is not dietary. And I have the temperature pretty low. I have it set at 5, which on my stove is medium, because you don't want to brown your butter. You want your butter to just melt. And this is going to be the base of our sauce. Now, we're not actually making a roux, which is good because I don't know about anybody else, but I absolutely hate making roux. We're going to use cream cheese to thicken. So we're just going to stir this butter around until it melts. So I melted half a cube of butter. I'm using unsalted, mostly because that's what I have. So we're going to, and you notice that it's not brown, it's just melted. I have my temperature set just slightly below medium because you don't want your butter to brown. Now we're going to add our onions and garlic. And we're not gonna brown them. We're just going to cook them until they're clear and soft. And we're just gonna let that cook for a few minutes. Okay, so that's cooking. The timer just went off on the bacon. It's been 20 minutes. And so we're gonna flip it and drain off a little bit of the grease. Okay, so we got it out. Now I'm going to turn this pan off for a little bit because I have a glass topped range. It's going to stay hot for a while, so I often turn it off in the middle of cooking. You can see they're getting pretty soft and they really smell good. Obviously that's not something that's going to come across, but they smell really good. They're getting nice and soft. So I just want my pan to cool a little bit before I add the milk. And I still don't want my butter to brown. So that's why I turned that off and I'm letting it cool. I'm gonna drain the grease off the bacon and flip it all over and put it back for just a little bit. I want my bacon super crispy. I flipped the bacon. As you can see, it's already pretty crispy. I drained the extra bacon grease into our butter pan. So it's actually in there now. I'm only gonna put this back in for maybe 5 minutes. Now, one of the reasons I like doing it in the oven is, as you can see, it's like nice and flat and straight. Some of the end pieces I could actually probably take out, but I'm gonna give it 5 more minutes. Now, you know, bacon crispness is to taste. My grandmother actually always did her bacon a little bit soft. I like really crispy bacon, so mine's gonna be in there for a little while. So I'm gonna turn this back on. You can see it's no longer boiling. Still keeping it down at about 5. And now we're gonna add in our cream cheese. This is what we're doing instead of making a traditional roux with flour and bringing that up, is we're gonna thicken it with cream cheese instead. So we're actually gonna do this before the milk. So I went through and I just quickly cubed out the cream cheese with my knife. That's just to make it melt a little bit faster. So we're gonna stir this in. And get it to melt. And you're just gonna wanna keep stirring until you get it all melted and combined. That is all broke down, all the big chunks are melted down, and it's ready for the milk. The bacon is out of the oven. Now, I keep saying milk, but we're actually using heavy whipping cream. Because of course we are. This is definitely not a low-calorie recipe. This is comfort food. When it's raining outside, you're a liberal in a deeply red state, you need a little extra comfort, don't worry about the calories, just load it up. Okay, so you're gonna put, some, let's see. This is 32 ounces, so I bet that was about 8 ounces. Sorry, I'm not the measuring kind of cook. Okay, so I just sort of stirred that in. I'm gonna use my whisk and try to break up any last little cream cheese chunks. Cream cheese is weird, even when it melts, it kind of still stays in its form. So we're just breaking up the cream cheese. We're not getting serious about whisking or anything. And I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit more. It's a thick, creamy sauce, so when it boils, it really gets excited. So I'm going to turn it down to about a simmer. And we're going to start, actually, I'm going to turn it all the way off. Like I said, my stovetop does stay hot. Now we're going to add cheese. We're adding both mozzarella and cheddar. And I got 16-ounce bags. So I've melted half of the mozzarella and half of the cheddar down into this. As you can see, it's a little thick. So if it gets a little thick on you, which it can, you can add a little bit of milk. And I don't mean cream this time, I actually mean milk. So just get out your regular milk and add, I don't know, it's probably 3 ounces, maybe half a cup. And you can use that to thin, because you want it to be about the consistency of gravy, maybe a little thicker. Because you want it to ooze around and get inside all the noodles and all that. As it heats up, it'll get a little thinner too. So you just want to try to get it nice and smooth. Now no, it's not going to be completely smooth because it's got onions and garlic in it. And there you have your cheese sauce. Okay, so now this is a casserole. So you know what that means, layering. So I've already sprayed the pan with nonstick spray because this is going to be messy and sticky. This might actually be a good time to use one of those aluminum pans that you just throw away, but I didn't get one of those. So we're just using my glass pan. And you're going to put your noodles in. Okay, mine are a little sticky because I did them this morning. So you can just sort of break them up. You want to do a nice solid layer across the bottom. Okay, so once you have a nice solid layer across the bottom, you're going to go in with your sauce. And you're going to try to work that in. Okay, so you want to take your spoon and just kind of spread it around. Now if you use just cheddar, this would be a little bit oranger, but because I used the mozzarella too, it's a little lighter. Sorry, my husband's feeding the dog. Okay, now I wish I had a little bit bigger pan. I used to, I accidentally gave my daughter the big one. Okay, so you have a layer of noodles, a layer of sauce. Now, the 2 half bags of cheese that you reserved that you didn't put in the sauce, you want to actually layer it. Try not to stick your fingers in the sauce. That's generally frowned upon. I like mozzarella just because it's going to give it that really stringy, gooey wonderfulness. And then, remember I did the bacon really crisp? I went ahead and broke it up. So we're going to sprinkle that on too. And I did an entire package of bacon. Okay, so now we're back in for the next layer. This is a really good meal to invite people over because, as we've discussed, there's nothing dietary about this. And if you're anything like me, there is no part of you that needs to have this sitting around in your fridge because you can eat a whole pan. Okay, so I have leftover noodles because my pan's too small. So what we're gonna do is just get out a small pan and make another side batch. So if there's somebody you know, don't forget to spray your pan because it will stick. So if there's somebody you know that happens to super love mac and cheese, you can kick down some to them. This pan might actually be a little big. Okay, so back in with your cheese sauce you go. Now ideally, you would want to be able to do 3 layers. Can't do 3 layers, so 2 it is. And I'm looking at this and I don't know that I've actually got enough for this extra little pan like I thought. So we're just gonna incorporate it in. And no, it's not gonna cook down. So when we put this in the oven, we're gonna put it on a cookie sheet just to be safe. And the thing about casseroles, they're not a very precise thing. You spread that all nicely, try to push it into the corners. And back with your cheese. Now you could grate your cheese by hand and not be lazy and just buy it, but I don't know why you would want to do that. Okay, so you're going to spread it all around, try to work it out towards the edges, kind of push it down in. Now it might have actually been better to do the mozzarella first, then you'd get the cheddar on top and it'd have more of the yellow that people kind of think of. There it is. Now your bacon. And if I would have thought of it, I actually would have put the bacon underneath this last layer of cheese. But I didn't. That's the nice thing about casseroles. You can make little mistakes. Nobody's gonna know unless you're making a video and you tell them. Now you want your very top to be kind of crispy. So you're gonna take some breadcrumbs and you're just gonna shake them over the top. And that's gonna give it a nice crisp layer on the top. And then because we want to act dignified, like we're not just eating cheese and noodles, which we are, we're gonna add some green onions to the top. And this is purely about pretty. But pretty matters. Because we eat with our eyes first. Now you could actually cut these, but with a knife and a cutting board and all that. But I always find it just as easy to cut them with a pair of scissors. Okay. Once you got a little green, you're ready to put it in the oven. Okay, so the oven is still hot from the bacon. It's still at 350. Since we all know 350 is the magic number. Usually I do casseroles for about 30 minutes, but I really want to make sure this incorporates. We're going to start with 30 minutes. See what the top looks like, and then we'll come back and reassess at that time. Okay, so we're going to rescue it. And there we go. That's how you make homemade mac and cheese. Now you know how to make homemade mac and cheese from scratch. It's pretty cheap. It only costs about 20 bucks and it made 10 servings. And it was a really big hit. Everybody loved it. They all went back for seconds. Even my skinny little girlfriend, who probably weighs like 100 pounds soaking wet, she had 2 bowls. So next time you want to make something that's really going to impress a large group, give this a try. When you try this recipe yourself, please leave us comments and reviews in the comment box below. Thanks!